Welcome to No Broken Legs. I am Evan Belfiore. Joining me in-house on a snowy Friday where it is quite cold. He made the drive up anyway. Jimmy, thank you for joining me up in-house.
No place I'd rather be, brother. Just happy and thankful for the day after Thanksgiving and some time to talk football.
And joining us on the phone is our friend downtown Ronnie Brown. He joined us for an Ohio State-Michigan preview podcast that you can check out on this channel. Ron, thank you for staying to talk some football.
Thank you. I was going to say, it feels like we just did this a few moments ago. So jump in the DeLorean.
Yeah, well, we have a huge game for the Cleveland Browns. They are traveling to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Lamar Jackson is going to be back for this game. It looks like they're still going to play Baker Mayfield, even though he looked like he shouldn't have been playing last week. And, Jimmy, that's sort of where I want to start, where we talk about this game. Just at a macro level, Baker Mayfield looks like he's really hurt, and he now has a groin injury on top of his heel and his knee, and he already had the shoulder problem. And the groin injury tells me that his body's starting to fall apart from the number of injuries, because that groin injury is probably a result of the foot and knee injuries.
Right. The groin injury is the result of trying to throw footballs without your knee and your foot, because neither one of them are working right, and either your front office is telling you have to play him, or as a coach you like us believe that 40% of Baker Mayfield is probably still equal to 100% of Case Keenum, so it doesn't really matter anyway. And he just hopes maybe Baker can game it out and make some big plays. I really hope Kareem Hunt plays, because that will take some stress off of Baker, because we know how Kareem Hunt's going to run in this football game when he comes back. But I think just stop throwing the fucking football so much.
Yeah, run the ball
Just
a little more.
Run the ball more.
That's been our mantra here on this show. That has been our mantra on this show, Ron. What do you think Stefanski's trying to prove with keeping Baker out there and throwing the ball? We haven't been able to figure it out. Do you have an explanation?
I think, like most people in power, they don't really have a really good plan for what they're doing or why they're doing what they're doing.
Hear, hear.
I just don't understand it. Now, first of all, I'm a little bit different. I'm not as huge of a Baker fan as other people are. I think he's like an average quarterback on his best days. But I feel like the comparison between him and Case Keenum is really similar. Your backup quarterback is almost identical to who your starter is. So you don't have to change your offense too much. And if you have one that's banged up, and even if he's not banged up and he's not playing well, now would be a good time to transition him out and put someone else in. So my personal feeling, I feel like Stefanski's favorite player is Kareem Hunt. And I feel like when Kareem Hunt doesn't play, he doesn't know how to build that offense the way that he wants to.
He's the release valve for everything that they do. He's the safety blanket for Baker and all the passing plays. And, you mentioned it there. It seems like you think he's the safety blanket for Stefanski as well.
Yeah, and I feel like he is a perfect number 2 running back, because he can run in between the tackles, he can catch out of the backfield, he can do all these wonderful things. You can line him out as a wide receiver. And, if your defense really kind of has to admit what they're doing when you bring them out and flick them out wide, and then bring them back into the backfield, because he can do either one of those things. I just don't really understand what the philosophy is. We know this is a team that's built off of play action, and they need to run the ball a whole lot more. But, they need to get those plays. The quarterback doesn't have to make a lot of plays during the game, but he's got to be able to make them when they count. And they're not being made, and that's the downfall of this team right now. Because even though the defense isn't great, they're playing good enough to win you some games. That Pittsburgh game, they only gave up, 13 points? So, you need to be able to score at least 20 points, in my opinion, to win any NFL game. That should be the minimum of what you can do. And if you can't do that, then there's something wrong with your offense.
Yeah, the defense has gotten worked in a couple of games this season, but for the most part, they've been holding teams under 20. And you would expect the Browns, with a head coach who's the play caller, this is his offense, this is his thing. Jimmy, a couple of weeks ago started raising concerns about Kevin Stefanski, and I didn't like the play calling. Now we see that they're still dealing with pre-snap penalties. It doesn't look like he has the courage to tell Baker Mayfield, you are too injured to help us right now. We need you to just sit for a few weeks. It's a lot of bad building up on Stefanski, and I'll repeat what I said earlier in the season. He's still just his second year. He's had one off season, so is he maybe not quite measuring up to what we had hoped as soon as we had hoped?
Probably, all of the young coaches and young players in the league right now, these guys 2 years in, they've all kind of talked about how weird it is to play NFL games with fans in the stadium. How weird it's been to get the whole experience that you didn't get last year. And maybe it's working Stefanski a little more than he wants to let on. Now I'm going to fight with both of you for a minute. Now, absolutely, hands down, I believe Case Keenum should have played last week after I saw Baker Mayfield throw one ball. Absolutely. But here's the thing. Except for the Steelers game, the Browns haven't lost any of the games where the defense played well. Except for the Steelers game. That's the only game they lost that the defense played well. I mean, Baker Mayfield had 2 games where the team scored over 35 points and they lost. I believe. Right in that range. So the defense, the offense has not wasted a good performance from the defense yet, but the other has happened, that the defense has wasted good performances from the offense. I don't know how many points I think Baltimore is going to score in this game. Injured Baker Mayfield isn't going to be able to score enough to lead a victory, I don't think. But Kevin Stefanski has got to get himself right for this game. He has got to just run the football and minimize the throws. I don't care. I don't care what drunk-ass fans are in the stand booing Baker. I don't care. I don't care what everybody's saying about the Browns. They are 6-5. Like, most Browns fans are talking like the team has not won a game all year. It's just the facts of what is going on. I get it. Baker's played bad hurt. You'd fucking play bad hurt too. Like,
what is your mantra, Ron?
Manage your expectations.
Like, the thing is, they absolutely have a path to win this game. Now, what would have made the most sense would have been sit Baker for Detroit, probably sit him for this game, and he gets 3 weeks to rest, and then you win the game. You just go ahead and kind of punt on the Ravens game in Baltimore, and you defend your house.
I think what they should do regardless coming into this game is you have 1 or 2 trick plays in your back pocket that you pull out when you need them most. We need to see 1 or 2 of those trick plays, and just they got to come up. You can throw something at them that they haven't seen before.
This is where you have Jarvis throw a bomb to somebody.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, we know the play works. He does it well. Like, but I agree with you. This is for the Browns, like we have talked about, as Ron said, managing expectations. We have felt the Browns haven't really played a must-win game this year. If you put Baker Mayfield at quarterback in this game, it becomes a must-win. Because if you're putting him out there again, saying he's ready to play, and he plays like he did against Detroit, I'll probably be the only person left on this side of the Baker fence. So you have to win this game if you play Baker. You got to watch the tape of the first half of the Lions-Rams game. And everything the Lions did is exactly what you have to do. It has to be different out of the box. Like, Harbaugh is a great coach, but Harbaugh prepares for what he knows. So you have to give him things he doesn't know from your offense in this game. And that's the path to victory if Baker plays. It's just what it'll have to be.
Is that what you think they're going to – oh, go ahead, Ron.
Now, here's my thing with Baker. Even we acknowledge that, like, he's not playing well and he's not feeling, he's injured or banged up.
He's seriously injured.
Yeah, he's seriously injured. But, in week, 12 of the NFL season, who isn't? Everybody's injured.
Well, I think there's a difference between being beat up and having a fracture in your shoulder and having a heel injury as a quarterback and having a knee sprain along with now a groin pull that seems to be caused by the foot and knee injuries. But he's injured, and this it just kind of goes back to what we said before. I don't understand why he's out on the field.
Yeah, he 100% shouldn't be out there. But he's only thrown 10 touchdowns this season, and he's tied with Jared Goff. He's tied with Russell Wilson, which sounds like it would be a good thing if Russell Wilson didn't have a broken hand and didn't miss a whole month. So,
I've got some arrows to throw at Russell Wilson when we eventually talk about Seattle, but
I mean, like I just don't see where he's played well and he's injured, and with him being banged up, he just can't be out on the field. He's not effective because these other defenses are smart. They know he's not 100%. They know they're going to make him uncomfortable whenever he has to, and they know that they're going to run. I mean, everybody knew the Browns were going to run the ball to begin with.
Yeah,
and now
that's
know
what they
that you
want
can't
to do.
really make plays. Yeah, they want you to make plays through the passing game, and that was with a healthy Baker. And now that he's banged up, that's what they really want you to do. So I think Case Keenum needs to play in this game unless they shot Baker up and he feels fantastic. And I don't care how tough he needs to be. If you're out there, you need to be able to make plays.
Yeah, I agree.
That's all there is to it. You've got to be able to make them.
I fully agree. I think here's something that I think, and Evan and I on this pod, we talk a lot about national narrative, right? So the last 2 weeks are two of the worst weeks of Baker Mayfield's career as an NFL quarterback. And you can go back to the Steelers game if you want to. You have the Cincinnati game in there where he threw the ball really well. And to his credit, you can't watch a Browns game without him threading a needle in between defenders and a receiver or a tight end dropping a football. Like, I know it happens to every team, but for as little as the Browns throw the ball, they got to make catches. But over the 2 weeks where he's been playing really injured and he's been being killed in the national media, Josh Allen was one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, and he's fully healthy with all of his weapons healthy, and he was playing like shit, and there wasn't a word about how bad Josh Allen is playing. I just don't understand. I don't understand why Baker is getting just so destroyed for playing injured, unless you, like a lot of people, think maybe he's kind of forcing his hand to play. Do you get that vibe from Baker?
I feel like the Browns never really established who was in charge in their relationship with Baker Mayfield from the jump. Now, I know we've had lots of different, I feel like I didn't learn the word regime until like the last 13 years because they were like, oh, we have this regime in the Browns.
Yeah, but they used the word regime, but none of them stayed around long enough to actually be a regime.
Yeah, they're all like interim managers at this point. But like, if you remember when like Baker was talking about, I think it was Jarvis or somebody else, not Jarvis, it was somebody else's contract. I think it was like Duke Johnson.
Yeah, it was when Duke Johnson went to Houston.
And he talked about like his contract, and like the Browns didn't come forth and say something. Jarvis was the one that said it. Now, like, I'm not saying that Baker was a terrible person for saying what he said, but like, and he was a young player. He needed to be checked by Jarvis, who told him, look, we don't talk about this stuff with other guys' money. So, but I feel like the Browns never really. If like even like when they had Hugh Jackson was a terrible coach. You felt slighted by him, yeah, but be the bigger man. Be the bigger man. And, like, Baker has rabbit ears, and Baker drives more media coverage than Josh Allen does. Because Josh Allen plays a bad game. Josh Allen's not really going to say anything,
But I do think there is everything with Baker Mayfield is in the light of, is he worth $40 million a year as a contract? That's the contract Josh Allen's already signed. And he has shown no signs other than his best year that he's that guy. He looks like he's that guy half the time. In the other half of the time, he looks like you wouldn't pay him $10 million.
Yeah, but like he does look like he's the guy more times than not. Like, look at last night. I mean, he looked pretty good last night. He didn't look great, but he looked pretty good. He
still threw 2 picks, and I still have memories of him losing to fucking Jacksonville.
Well, Jacksonville's going to beat somebody.
Like, I guess.
So maybe just as a wrap up here on Baker before we make our picks, I saw Nick Wright on Colin Cowherd, and Cowherd's been a Baker basher from the beginning. He's kind of like Skip when it comes to LeBron. Like, he just never has a positive thing to say, really. They talked about should the Browns move on from Baker Mayfield, and my take on Baker Mayfield is this. He's going to play for his contract next year. That's it. The Browns are going to bring him back on his 5th-year option, and if he plays well, then he's going to be the quarterback moving forward, and if he doesn't, he's not. Do you think there's any way Baker Mayfield isn't the quarterback of this team next year, Ron?
I would be shocked. I feel like unless something falls into your lap where, like, Aaron Rodgers is like, I want out and I want to go to Cleveland.
Anybody want to take that bet? Anybody that Aaron Rodgers is using Cleveland as anything other than a leverage chip?
Yeah, I doubt that. Yeah. But like I feel like that it's kind of like where we talked about in the last podcast with Harbaugh. Who are you going to get to replace him? Because
Exactly.
would I replace him with Russell Wilson? Yes, I would replace him with him. But do I feel like that's
I don't
actual
think
spot?
Sierra wants out of
exactly.
Seattle because it's not big enough. So if
Yeah.
like she's not gonna say, "Oh yeah, let's go to fucking Cleveland."
Cleveland, yeah. I want to go there.
And then
LeBron's not even there anymore.
You also have, and I think something else, like where I think part of the reason, the hate for Baker is he's not Justin Herbert. He's not slinging footballs all over the place, right? But I feel like Cleveland media, national media, Cleveland Browns fans, it's actually less in national sports fans that see it from the outside. Like, we're completely bipolar with this team because we're like, Baker needs to be a gunslinger. Oh, good job on signing your run-blocking guards and your running back to long extensions for big money. You can't have both. No marquee quarterback is going to come here and say, yeah, I'll turn around and hand the ball to Nick Chubb 35 times a game. Like, marquee quarterbacks make their money by throwing the football, but that's not what's being built here. And I feel like, especially within our Cleveland media, I feel like they praise that process, but then want Baker to be more of a gunslinger. Baker Mayfield in this offense, if he's healthy, the pieces are healthy, he needs to be an advanced game manager. I agree with what you said. There are times in every game where he has to be able to make a play. But when the Browns come out and go 5 wide, and sometimes they motion the running back in the backfield, sometimes they don't, so they can get their read, and they go 5 wide, and the offensive line just breaks down because these guys are built to run block, not pass block. And I feel like Baker's just being put in ridiculous situations and being killed for it. I think healthy Baker Mayfield is good enough to get this Browns team at least a win, if not 2, into the playoffs. With the way the team wants to be constructed and play games. That's why I just don't understand this thought of Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, all these quarterbacks are going to come here to hand the ball off in Cleveland. It's not what they're going to do. I mean, you'll get to buy a San Francisco Aaron Rodgers jersey if he leaves Green Bay. So, I mean, that's what'll happen.
Yeah, I think what they really need to be is balanced, and they're not balanced enough.
Yeah.
And
you're right.
And here's my whole thing: like, injured or not injured, I agreed that Baker is better when he's not injured. I feel like everybody's a lot better when they're not seriously injured and trying to make plays. But
but I think a lot of people are looking at like Baker's play this year. They're looking at that not as an injury exception. They're looking at that as that's who Baker is, and I think that is faulted to its core to look at it that way.
I think that kind of like where I like to say manage your expectations. I feel like people have this vision of like Baker being, when he's healthy, being the guy that was in that Cincinnati game. And I feel like he is not, like, he will occasionally get you some games where he is going to pass for over 300 yards. He's going to have multiple touchdowns, probably no picks. If one, that's acceptable. But I feel like even in this system, when 100% healthy, the quarterback that he really is someone that's going to get you between like 185 and 285, 270, 250, maybe one touchdown a game, hopefully no picks, but he's probably going to throw one, and he's going to be consistent for like a quarter, and then he's not going to be consistent for a while. And granted, he's going to have people drop the ball. The line's not going to block sometimes, but I feel like that's who he really is as a quarterback, is that 185 guy, one touchdown. And if you look at him, the comparisons that people make to him, kind of like Case Keenum, obviously when he was in Minnesota had better weapons because he has Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen. But I feel like he's kind of like Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is playing a little bit more, but Kirk Cousins has seen more football. But like if you look at what kind of guy Jimmy G is, that's another comparison people have, like that type of thing. In that similar type of offense where they are run heavy, 185 yards, 1 to 2 touchdowns, you'll take that with him. He's not like I feel like Baker came out of Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley as the gunslinger, but he really isn't that type of guy. And
I think what Baker does that separates himself from all those guys that you just said is he's lethal 10 to 20 yards down the field. He finds guys open and he throws darts and he hits them. And those are throws that Case Keenum doesn't make. And Jimmy G doesn't make those throws. They make them sometimes, but Baker was hitting 80% of his passes before his shoulder injury this year. And I think his work in that 10 to 20 range opens things up for the running game, and now you're playing complementary football. We saw it against Cincinnati. Cincinnati kind of crunches up to the line to try to stop the run. Baker hits a couple of guys in that 10 to 20-yard range downfield. Next thing you know, the linebackers got to move back a little bit to respect those passes, and now Nick Chubb's breaking off 60-yard touchdown runs because if you give him just that little bit of space, Nick Chubb makes you pay.
The guy that the Browns need Baker to play like, especially right now, is Mac Jones. And we got a close-up look at it. If you look at that game, now granted we know he was injured in that game, so we're not really judging Baker 100%.
Well, I don't disagree with that. I don't think Mac Jones is being asked to do anything. He's just making a lot of simple throws, and I don't know why we're not asking Baker to just do that.
Exactly, right? So, like, it just...
I have a theory that, like, is probably going to be slightly unpopular, but I feel like Baker... I feel like coaches... Stefanski doesn't feel this way. I don't feel like Hugh thought this either, and I don't think Lincoln Riley did, is that Baker isn't that type of guy. Like, I don't think they trust him to do that. And here's my reasoning. I know it's like I'm probably going way too conspiracy theory, but if you go back to that playoff game, Lincoln Riley, Oklahoma versus Georgia, Baker was the Heisman Trophy winner. It was fourth down. They had a chance to go with it. He took the ball out of Baker's hands on that play. And if you look at it historically through Baker's career in games where, like, we need you to make this play, they don't usually give him the opportunity to do it because I don't think that they trust him. When they do, they don't always get the result they want. Now, there's some times where they do, like last year when we played Cincinnati, he outdueled Joe Burrow. That was fantastic. He did that. But, like, if you go back to the beginning of the year, he wasn't able to make that play on the fourth down. Like, those are plays that, like, I mean, I know Mahomes is a high standard to have, but, like, Mahomes is a guy that makes that play.
But
Justin
you can't talk about managing expectations and compare Baker Mayfield to Patrick Mahomes. Like, it's just that's an unreal. Like, Patrick Mahomes is just better than Baker Mayfield. It's that simple.
Yeah, he's just better at football. But, like, for one play, can you do that?
Yeah, and that's a fair criticism. And I think,
and I feel like that's what Mac does. Mac Jones is doing that. Like, look, we need this throw right now. You got to make this throw. And Mac Jones is doing it. And if you look at, like I said, look at the stat line from, like, against the Browns, 19 to 23, 198 yards. He threw 3 touchdowns. So, like, I mean, like, you know, that's a really good game for him. Know, and we will take that.
Yeah, I don't
happily.
Ron, I don't disagree with you because I think it comes back to Stefanski and Van Pelt and whatever happens after they get out of their scripted plays. Because I'm going to say the same thing to you about the Mac Jones game that I said in the Chargers game with Justin Herbert. Like, in a vacuum, Justin Herbert is a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield. Absolutely. But the throws in the Chargers game and the throws in the Patriots game where the quarterbacks were praised the most for making were throws that Nathan Peterman can make. Like, plain and simple. Like, so shame on Kevin Stefanski and Alex Van Pelt for not being able to get wide receivers open where Baker's eyes are. Because I think we all see it. That's where the double pumping and the clutching and the happy feet start is when his head starts darting around. So why the hell can we never get a deep cross in his freaking eye line? I don't understand. But I don't disagree with you. He is not, certainly it's been more times than not where he has made the play. But I agree. Like, I think it's kind of like where Evan was going. I agree. Like, I do still feel like the Baker Mayfield rookie year and the Baker Mayfield the end of last year, in my opinion, is more of what Baker Mayfield is as a starting quarterback in the NFL than what he's played like this year. Just my personal opinion. Who the hell knows? But that's just how I feel.
Yeah, and I do agree with Evan. I feel like he's going to be the quarterback next year. He's going to play for that contract. We can't find somebody else that will replace him, you know, right now that would be better. That's in the realm of reality. So I feel like that's just something that we're going to have to deal with. He'll be more healthy. So he's kind of got like a built-in, this is a reason, not an excuse for why he is struggling.
Right.
But like, I also feel like he's just the type of guy where, like, I feel like the Browns need a quarterback that can not only make plays, but need someone to be able to make plays when things aren't going right.
Right.
And he doesn't seem to be that type of guy. And like
That's fair.
guys, when the play breaks down, and I feel like Baker's at his best when there's like no pressure, not pressure coming from the DN, not pressure coming from like, like getting sacked or anything like that, but pressure from like, I need to make this throw. Like, if you look at the Cincinnati game, that game really never was in question. I always thought that he was going to win that game. They were going to win this game. He made that great throw to Peoples-Jones. He had the world against him. It was easy. It's great motivation, but that game was never in jeopardy. But then
this game will be in jeopardy. Yeah, this game will be in jeopardy. And one of the reasons for that is Lamar Jackson's been pretty much fantastic this year. Ron, Jimmy and I last week, when we talked about what Miami did to Baltimore with just throwing a shitload of DBs at them, we joked about how the Browns did that when the Patriots were in their base defense in the red zone, or their base offense in the red zone. Are the Browns going to attack Baltimore that way? Do you think that they'll just throw a bunch of DBs out there, blitz the shit out of him, and say, let's go, boys?
I don't know. I feel like it still seems to me like the best approach to beat Lamar is to make him make more plays through the passing game. Now, he is slowly getting better at that. So, that's the kind of the catch now. Or do you want to sit back and just try to generate a rush with just 4? And when you have Miles, that helped. But he is a difficult man to bring down. And I think that if you don't get him and he gets out, then you're in really big trouble. I don't care how many DBs are chasing after him; he's not going to be caught.
Well, if they just sit back and play passive defense, they'll probably get marched up and down the field on, because that seems to be what happens when this team plays more passive. When Joe Woods goes out there with a plan to attack, the players seem to respond to it very well.
I feel like teams players like to attack more often than not. I feel like that's the type of offense that they want to watch. Yes, you can go get one. Sorry. The fun of doing this while you're at home, the request for an ice cream sandwich. I feel like that most players want to attack. They want to do that. Just like most teams don't want to offensive lines don't want to pass block. They want to run block. They want to push people around. So I feel like teams want to be able to attack like that. So, it's really hard to tell. I also just have a really bad feeling about this game. I don't like the idea of playing them, 2 weeks in a row, even though there's going to be like a bye in between. I just don't like this at all.
Yeah, but it's a bye for us, not for them. Like, they have to play next week. So, it could be well. Like, I would really love to be in the defensive coordinator's room this week, because there are pretty much 2 paths to slowing down Lamar Jackson. Ron kind of hit on both of them, right? So you put a bunch of DBs on the field, which this should be easy for Cleveland because we got a bunch of them that are high draft picks and highly paid. And you get our shitty linebackers off the field, which is a plus in its own. Like, you go plus by getting Mac Wilson off the field. Like, it's a good idea. And you pressure where you can off the edges, and you cover everybody, and you force Lamar to throw the ball outside the numbers deep. Because he'll still throw it there, but that's where he struggles. He can throw deep down the seams in the middle, but outside the numbers, he still struggles. And then the only other way is to go just heavy pressure with your base defense, but it's got to be wide, right? Like, you have to get Clowney and Garrett way outside the tackles, and they almost have to just come straight up the field, not try to attack, and let Lamar come to them. And hopefully your tackles inside can get a little pressure. Your DBs hold up long enough. Lamar's got to move, and there should be 4 people there waiting for him. Like, those are the 2 ways you do it. Now, of course, do I believe Joe Woods is putting either of those game plans in place? Nope. Because against good quarterbacks this year, he has done a piss-poor job of understanding what their offenses like to do. So it's a situation where he has got to pick one of those 2 options and do it. Please, Joe, please listen to us again and go get the quarterback, please.
And Myles Garrett just has to kind of have like one of those TJ Watt games.
Yeah, we agree.
I feel like Myles is having he's having a great season, but like I feel like the difference between him is like TJ Watt just makes a big difference. And like I know he's getting
TJ Watt wrecks games.
Yeah, I think
we haven't seen Myles do that this year.
Like, I think the problem for us, like as a fan base, like the 2 games that Myles Garrett absolutely wrecked were Chicago and Minnesota. And because, I mean, the Browns were kind of in control for both games, and like they didn't need it. So we didn't really pay that much attention to it. But I completely agree. Like this is a marquee game, Myles Garrett. Like you could go out and probably really stake a claim to Defensive Player of the Year in this game.
Yeah, and I think that's what needs to happen. And the level of respect that would happen for him in getting nominated for something like that and actually winning it, making a statement against that one, and it would lay the groundwork, especially because you're going to play them 2 weeks in a row, and then you're going to have to play the Raiders. They're up and coming. You play the Packers on Christmas Day, so and then you wrap up the season against the Steelers and the Bengals. So I mean, this is the time to really ramp up your skill. And Clowney too, who has made some impact, but not nearly as much as we would want. And God's sakes, Denzel Ward just has to stay healthy because when he plays, he makes plays.
Yeah.
It's just that obvious, like just stay healthy.
All right, well, let's get into our picks. The Baltimore Ravens are home. The Browns are the underdogs. The spread is 3.5. The over-under sits at 45. Ron, who do you like in this game?
I like the Ravens. I like the over to hit as well too. I feel like I feel like the Ravens aren't that good against the pass. And so I feel like they can be taken advantage of. I just don't know if we will be able to do that with a banged-up quarterback and with, our wide receivers are kind of banged up. I don't know what's happened to Swartz. I mean, I don't know if he's even alive anymore. But
he has not practiced this. He has not practiced this week due to a concussion.
Yeah. So, I just don't know. I mean, Higgins is out there now, but, I just don't think we have the horses. And so, I think the over is going to hit, but I'm picking the Ravens. And I also, just to wrap this up, if I have to see one more tight end screen, I'm going to probably jump out my house. Yeah. I just don't want to ever see that play ever again. Nobody wants to see it.
All right, Jimmy, who do you got for this game?
All right, so I'm going to go here, right? The Browns lost. The Browns lost to the Steelers because Mike Tomlin was fucking fired up and he had his team fired up and they punched Cleveland in the face. That's the only team that is worse than Cleveland that's beat them this year because apparently New England is just New England again. I think the Browns are still better than the Ravens. I'm taking the Browns and the money line. I think this is a prove-it game for Kevin Stefanski, a prove-it game for Baker Mayfield. If he's going to play, he's got to get it done. I think Nick Chubb made it perfectly clear the team is rallying around Baker Mayfield playing injured. Regardless of all of our outside noise, inside the locker room, they seem to still back Baker. I think his team is going to come out. I'm going to believe Joe Woods. Listen to me. He's going to do one of the two options I gave him, and I think the Browns are going to win this game. And Monday morning, national media is going to be like, fuck. And that's what I think is going to happen.
Well, I know this much, that if the Browns do win, that they'll find a way to talk about anything but the Browns and Baker Mayfield playing well. I love that optimism. I wish I shared it. I will be taking the Ravens in this game, and it really just boils down to I don't think Baker's healthy enough to beat Baltimore through the air, and if he's not going to play and they put Keenum in, I just don't think Keenum's good enough to beat Baltimore through the air. Or he's definitely not good enough to keep Baltimore within 3.5. So I'm taking the Ravens. This season has kind of been ugly for the Browns, but Ron, Jimmy and I talked about it a few weeks ago, just to wrap up here on the Browns. I asked Jimmy if 9-8 is a failure for the Browns. If they go 9-8 and miss the playoffs, is this season a failure?
I feel like it would be because whenever you go to the playoffs and you bring your team back and you actually, in theory, improve your team in a lot of ways and you don't get back to the playoffs, I think that's a big problem. I feel like the Pittsburgh game will be the game that people will circle and say why this is probably the reason why we didn't make it, because you're clearly better. The Steelers have 1 foot in the grave in some ways, and we didn't close the door on that. And plus, even though you beat the Bengals, they're up and coming. I feel like the fact that they look good. I just think I think when we thought good season, we were thinking 10 wins. That's good enough. That should be good enough to get you in the playoffs.
So let me let me add on to that question. That is it still a failure if they go 9-8 and post back-to-back winning seasons after 20 straight years of losing?
I mean, when you talk about it that way, then it's kind of hard to say that it was
But that's the point I'm trying to get to
failure.
with understanding expectations and with your mantra of managing expectations. The Cleveland Browns are 6-5 right now, and a lot of the people that I hear screaming and bitching the most are the people that made every fucking excuse they could possibly find for why the team was 3-13. I mean, you know who I'm talking about. It's the same people that were like, "Oh, if they had just done, these 7 things, they could have been 8-8." And it's just like how quickly Cleveland fans have warped from being completely accommodating to teams that couldn't win 4 games in a season to absolutely destroying a team that is currently 6-5 and 11 games into the season has won more games than fucking 17 of those 20 years. So it's as from my aspect, it's very confusing. I don't understand it. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, and I think that part of it is that, like, I feel like, at least for me, I can only speak for myself, but like part of the reason why I would say it would be a failure in that way, like it's a failure because like the expectations that we had, and we do want to manage our expectations, but like when I say that's my mantra, it's really was more prevalent back when they were a really bad team because like people thought that bad team, like when you got Johnny Manziel, that shit was going to get fixed right away. And everything was telling you the opposite. So this team has much more talent. They are better coached. They have a better philosophy, even though they don't stick to it throughout the entire game. They don't really seem to be able to adapt to it.
Yeah, you're not going to get any disagreement from us on that.
Yeah, but they are better. And I feel like with that playoff win where you exercised so many demons last year, you made the playoffs, you beat the Steelers back-to-back games. We can dissect those games in a vacuum and talk about whether or not how legit those 2 wins were. You hung with the Chiefs in that playoff game. So like we were coming into this season, you have talent, everybody seems to be healthy coming in, and I think you want to shed that, the thought of like how this team was before, because we don't want to have that same old Browns reaction,
Yeah, but the same old Browns wouldn't have gone 9-8. The same old Browns would currently be 3-8.
Yeah, they would have lost that game to the Steelers like they did, but they also would have lost that game to the Lions. Yeah. They probably would have lost the game to the Vikings as well too.
And they probably would have blown the game against Houston.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is a different team, but still, like, I feel like making the playoffs and 10 wins is a reasonable expectation for this team. And I felt like making the playoffs was a reasonable expectation.
So if 10 wins in the playoffs, I can't wrap my head around 10 wins in the playoffs being the expectation, and then like, okay, you didn't meet expectations at 9 wins and missing the playoffs. I don't see that as a failure. Like, I just don't. That's okay, you failed to meet whatever the expectation is, but we're just a bunch of jackoffs that don't know anything. I mean, and the experts on TV are a bunch of jackoffs that don't know anything. So I think that the way to look at it is this Browns team wasn't as good as we thought they were. Like, we were wrong. That's kind of how I look at it, is our expectations didn't come through because we wanted the team to be better. But if we want the Browns to build something that is sustained success, 4 or 5 years down the road, let's say they win a Super Bowl, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to look back at a season like this and say, oh, you know what? They were really beat up. They were really banged up. They still gutted out 9 wins, and that really helped build the culture that they have now. And I think that's something that a lot of fans don't think about.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, go ahead, Jimmy.
I completely agree with you. But I definitely think across the board to a man, there has been underperformance, with the exception of Nick Chubb, of people that were paid to come in here and immediately make the team better. So I agree with what you're saying overall, but I do think some of the games have been because players did not play up to expectation when healthy. Like I
feel like you're trying to not say Austin Hooper's name while you do all of this.
I'm trying so hard. Like, because there's a certain tight end and 3 safeties that are paid pretty well that have been the reason for killing drives, letting touchdowns score, just dumbass plays. And people beat me up because apparently Browns fans love Austin Hooper. And
Why?
I'm not allowed to say anything bad about him on Browns Twitter. Well, fuck you, because Austin Hooper is the highest paid tight end in the league and he damn sure doesn't play like it ever. So, Hooper has to be better all the time. All the time. Every time he's on the field. It has to be like Travis Kelce. It has to be like George Kittle. At this point, it has to be like Gesicki. When you're on the field, you have to make the other team game plan to stop you. And no team has to do that. So I do believe there's just been underperformance by individuals at time, which has then led to an underperformance of the team. But I think that was for a few weeks, and then the injuries started, and then it just all went downhill. But I will not take 9-8. 9-8 missing the playoffs by a couple games, considering the schedule was actually a lot harder than anybody thought it was going to be. I think that's been a big part of it.
Yeah.
You're going to play a whole lot of playoff teams in this schedule. So I think that makes a difference. So they will miss, I think, probably even their own expectations, but I don't think it'll be a failure of a season.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up there with the Browns because Ron's got to go take care of his kids. Ron, thank you so much for joining, man. We'll definitely have to have you on again.
Yeah, definitely. I enjoyed it. Thanks for letting me hang. Appreciate it.
All righty. Jimmy and I will be right back. We'll finish up with our picks. Ron, thank you.
See ya.
All right. Jimmy and I are back to finish up our NFL pod for this week. Jimmy, we had 3 games yesterday that we should quickly talk about. The Detroit Lions had another almost win against the Chicago Bears, and really the biggest story out of this game was what I texted you before the game, which was, it looks like Matt Nagy's not getting fired this weekend. What a crazy story that was.
Yeah, nothing that happened in that game should make anybody in Chicago feel warm and fuzzy, especially if Fields is going to be out for a couple weeks. We like to attack officials. We like to attack certain members of broadcast teams. For Tony Romo, I don't feel like it was a good day for him, and I definitely don't feel like it was a good day for Troy Aikman. Right? To sit in that set and watch Andy Dalton play quarterback and have the nerve to say that Chicago is a better team for having the veteran quarterback is absurd, and it tells me you know nothing about the current state of the NFL. Because there were wide receivers wide open and Dalton missed them all day. Chicago, thank goodness for David Montgomery running hard because he kept some drives alive for him. But without Khalil Mack, that defense is struggling. These are just 2 bottom teams in the league, I feel like, with Fields out, especially with Fields and Robinson out. With both of them out, there's just not enough weapons. Darnell Mooney is okay, but he's not enough. David Montgomery, though, he ran hard, so it was good to see that. But if I'm a Bears fan or Matt Nagy, I'm not comfortable at all.
I was kind of bummed out that I had David Montgomery on one of my fantasy teams this year, and he made me look like a fool for being bummed out because he missed a couple of games, but other than that, he's been really good, and he's shown to be a really good running back.
Yep.
The second game of the day was the Las Vegas Raiders just refused to die, and the Dallas Cowboys refused to take a hold of the NFC, Jimmy.
Yeah, so a couple things. I don't want to talk too much about this game, but I do want, the Tennessee Titans are already going through it with Derrick Henry, and I hope the Colts kind of watch that Cowboys thing, and I hope they understand what can happen to Jonathan Taylor real quick if you just keep giving him absurd amount of carries, because Zeke looks broke down. Looks like it should be Tony Pollard's job to me going forward. I don't understand how it's not close to a split, if not starting to lean to Pollard. As the Browns fans, we really needed Dallas to win that game. Would have been big for Vegas to take a loss there, but kudos to Vegas. They made enough plays, and it's one of those things Dallas's offense looks kind of anemic with a kind of banged up quarterback and without playmakers healthy. I don't know any other teams like that, but I guess it's just Dallas that happens to. But they're just Dallas missing too many pieces right now, and kudos to the Raiders on getting a win.
All right, and the game that wrapped up the night was Buffalo just destroying New Orleans. Just the Saints the Sean Payton magic with Trevor Siemian has clearly worn off, and it seems like we got both the best and worst of Josh Allen in this game. He had 4 touchdowns. They really lit it up, but he also had the 2 picks. Does this change your mind on Buffalo, or do you still look at them the same as you do everybody else with a little trepidation?
I'm ready to just lean towards the Patriots at this point. Like that game was,
Wow.
That game was very, very close in the first half. Josh Allen made it close. Like, I mean, the interceptions he threw, like, if other quarterbacks in the league threw them, they would get absolutely murdered for making that read and throwing that football. But it's okay. It's Josh Allen. But then he bounced back, had a good second half. But, yeah, the Saints are in trouble. But, I mean, I think that game's probably a lot closer if Kamara is healthy. Just not having Kamara really just derails that offense. They just don't have enough playmakers. And Trevor Siemian looks like Trevor Siemian. So
Yeah.
I think that's just that.
We talked a lot about Baker Mayfield, and I was going to mention as we went through the games, quarterbacks who should be thanking their stars that Baker Mayfield gets so much attention. Josh Allen is definitely one of those quarterbacks.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, we have several games. What are we? Is it week 12?
Yep.
God damn.
Yep.
All right, so now let's turn our attention to the rest of the Week 12 games. We have Cincinnati is hosting Pittsburgh in an AFC North matchup. The spread on this was 4.5 Wednesday for Cincinnati. It is now down to Cincinnati -4. The over-under sits at 44.5. I'm taking Pittsburgh in this game, Jimmy, because I still don't really trust Cincy, and it just feels like a field goal game to me.
Yeah, I love Pittsburgh. I'm going to try to get it at +3.5 because I agree. I see it a field goal game. I love the over as well. I think both of these defenses stink. And I'm taking the Pittsburgh money line because I think Pittsburgh's going to win this game outright. I don't think Pittsburgh is good, but I think Mike Tomlin has a more disciplined team. And I don't think Cincinnati can win this game. I really don't. I mean, I think this is where Cincinnati starts to fall off in the season. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to make the playoffs or make a push, but I think they'll win this game.
Yeah, and another big game in the AFC, the New England Patriots are hosting the Tennessee Titans. They are 6.5-point favorites. The over-under sits at 44. Mike Vrabel has had a lot of success against New England. Are you picking him to continue that success?
I'm going to take Tennessee. I don't like it. It feels dirty. I think they can keep it close because they've just got a lot of injuries on offense. I don't think they'll win the game. I'm sad Derrick Henry isn't there because I would have liked to see Belichick's defense against Derrick Henry so he could show the rest of the league how to do exactly what we've said to do to stop Derrick Henry because we know we think like Belichick does. But so it does make me sad that Henry's not there. But I do think New England will win, but I think Tennessee can keep it to a couple field goals. So I love the 6.5.
Yeah, I think Tennessee finds a way to keep this close. I think Vrabel knows they need this game.
Yeah.
And he'll either blitz Mac Jones like we have wanted teams to do, or he'll find a trick player to throw at Belichick to put some points on the board or flip field position or just do something to keep it close.
Yep.
Last year's Super Bowl champion, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, are traveling to the aforementioned Indianapolis Colts, who they've won 5 of 6, and they look really good. They're 3-point underdogs here. The over-under sits at 53. I like Tampa Bay in this game because I think they're getting healthy, and I think they can expose Indianapolis, but Indianapolis is kind of like a wild card. I don't know what the fuck to do with them.
Oh, I know what to do with them. Don't bet them against Tampa Bay. So this is actually going to be one of the more intriguing, fun games of the season because Frank Reich is one of the few people that still believes Carson Wentz is an elite quarterback in the NFL because you can't run on Tampa Bay. You can't do it. You can't do it. And I don't think he'll just run Jonathan Taylor into that line over and over again. I think he's going to try to showcase Carson Wentz, and I see a pick 6 coming for Tampa. I think Tampa wins this game handily. If there's a game that you like close, I would to me, you could tease Tampa to like -9 because I think they win this game by 2 scores. I don't think this game's going to be close. I think this is going to show clearly Tampa Bay, class of the NFC, Indianapolis. If a team can't stop the run, they can beat you, but they don't have any other way to do it. So I love Tampa Bay in this spot.
Yeah, that's a good point. Tampa Bay's secondary has also gotten a little healthier as the season has gone on, and they didn't look the best for a couple of games last year either. They had a swoon stretch. So I think this is a moment where they kind of get out of that and get back to their normal selves. Our next game is the LA Chargers are traveling to Mile High to play the Denver Broncos. They are 2.5-point favorites. The over-under sits at 47.5. When I was looking at this game, I looked at the I looked at their point differentials, and Denver plus 17 on the season. The Chargers are -5.
Yeah.
I'm taking Denver. I think the Chargers are the better team, but like Mikey and Rounders, man, the Broncos, they're just fucking hanging around.
No, they absolutely are. This is a game I want to be able to watch some of because this game absolutely has big playoff implications. In the West, really still, because the Chiefs still don't look totally right. And then as well as the wild card. I'm going to take the Chargers just because I think the talent level is just so much better on the offensive side of the ball. I do think Denver will score some points, but I just think Los Angeles will find a way to win this game. It's going to be weird. Like, it's going to be weird to watch Denver. Like, now that the trade's absolutely over, it's going to be weird to watch Denver without Von Miller. Like,
yeah.
It's going to be kind of weird. But I do think Los Angeles will cover this. I think they can win by a field goal. If you could get this at, like, Denver plus 3.5, I'd probably love Denver there, but at 2.5, I'll take the Chargers.
The other team in LA, the Rams, are traveling to Green Bay to take on the Packers. This is what a lot of people thought would be the NFC Championship game, and it may still be. The Packers are 1-point home favorites. The over-under sits at 47.5. Ooh, this is the biggest game of the week in the NFC, Jimmy.
Yeah, this game is huge. It's got huge implications. Both teams, it's just going to be what each team does best against the other team, which each team does best. I still have a lot of money on the Rams. I have a lot of money on Matt Stafford. So I'm sticking with the Rams. I'm going to take the Rams here for no real reason at all. I think these are two even teams. This could still end up being the NFC Championship game. I still like the Rams. I think structurally, organizationally, they've got the right team. And the Packers are always one COVID test away from being without Aaron Rodgers. So
I'm going to take Green Bay because I trust Rodgers more than Stafford.
Boo you!
Stafford seems like he's trying to single-handedly derail their season with some of the picks he's thrown.
Wow.
And LA really needs this game, and we've talked about it, and Nick Wright talks about it a lot on First Things First. Dallas, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, Arizona, and the LA Rams. One of those teams isn't going to the second round.
Yep.
And if LA loses this game, that puts them at 7-4 and a full 2 games behind the Arizona Cardinals, meaning that their chances of being that team that doesn't advance gets higher because they're going to have to go on the road the whole way.
Yep.
So seems like a do-or-die game a little bit for LA in terms of their season performance.
Yeah, and the Packers definitely are not under as much pressure to win this game. So maybe playing loose helps them out. And like I said, I cannot wait. I really hope he hasn't necessarily just been singling guys up, but I would love to see some Jalen Ramsey, Devontae Adams action in this game.
Oh, yeah, 2 of the best at their positions. That'll be a lot of fun. This game's going to be a lot of fun. The Philadelphia Eagles have been coming on quite a bit, and now with Dallas losing again, if they win this game, they're just a game and a half back of the division after they look to be dead to rights. They're traveling to the Meadowlands to take on the woeful Giants. The Eagles are 3.5-point favorites. The over-under sits at 45.5. I'm taking the Eagles. They're playing well. The Giants just fired Jason Garrett as their OC, and he might be a problem, but Daniel Jones is the problem, Jimmy.
Oh, no, Daniel Jones will be fine now because I believe they promoted Freddie Kitchens to offensive coordinator. So there should be no problem for the Giants offense. It should go really good. One team we were both sure on.
Is that true?
I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
Oh, no.
So one thing we were both pretty sure on to start the year was that Philadelphia wasn't any good and Dallas was really good. And maybe they were a lot closer than we thought because of injuries. Jalen Hurts playing really good football. He's got some weapons. Defensively, they're getting the job done. Like, I'm taking the Eagles here. I don't see how the Giants keep this to anywhere near a field goal. I'm taking it. I think the Eagles win this game by a touchdown. So,
yeah, Jalen Hurts making me look foolish for saying I don't think he's very good.
He's played really well.
He's playing well, very well. 2 teams that have played well and played poorly and underachieved are the San Francisco 49ers and the Minnesota Vikings. We get to see them play each other this Sunday. San Francisco is home. They are getting the gentleman's 3 for being the home team. The over-under sits at 48. I pretty much buried the 49ers. I didn't think they were going to go anywhere, and then they come out and they smack the Rams around, and now they've won 2 in a row, and they're 3-point favorites against Minnesota. I think this Minnesota team is destined to miss the playoffs, and that means they have to lose this game, so I'm taking San Francisco.
So I think really, I mean, we have a great slate of games Sunday. I think really just under the Los Angeles Green Bay game in the NFC, this game is super important for two teams trying to figure out what they are. I'm going to take Minnesota and Minnesota money line. And here's why. Like I have no idea if Kyle Shanahan is a better head coach than Mike Zimmer. I have no idea. Like we talk bad about Mike Zimmer a lot. He makes a lot of old man mistakes coaching football games.
Yep.
But Kyle Shanahan makes a lot of old man coaching football games mistakes too. So I don't know which one of these coaches is better. What I do know this week is that in the Minnesota Vikings film room, Mike Zimmer has a game plan to completely at least contain Deebo Samuel. Like, if they lose, it's not going to be because of Deebo Samuel. And I'm not 100% certain Kyle Shanahan can win a game without Deebo Samuel dominating the football game. So for that reason, I'm taking the Vikings. I don't think the 49ers are making the playoffs. I think the Vikings might end up squeaking in. So to do that, they have to win this game. So I'm going to take the Vikings.
And just to take a look at the NFC, we mentioned the 4 teams at the top. So those are the 5 teams at the top. That's 5 of your 7 playoff teams. The tie is at 5 wins with San Francisco, New Orleans, Carolina of all teams.
My Panthers.
The Vikings and the Eagles all have 5 wins. The Washington, Chicago, Atlanta all have 4 wins. Just even Seattle at 3-7 isn't completely out of the playoff picture yet with how bad a lot of the teams in the NFC have been.
No, they're not.
And since the rest of these games I looked at before and said none of these games matter, and now apparently all of these games matter.
The ones in the NFC absolutely
the NFC games matter. So the first one we'll look at is the Washington Armada at home against the Seattle Seahawks. It is a 1-point spread towards Washington. The over-under sits at 46.5. I'm taking Washington. And I'm going to challenge Russ Wilson, and I'm going to ask you a question, Mr. Champ. What has Russell Wilson done without Marshawn Lynch and that excellent Seahawk defense?
Very little, because even the success he's had since has been during the stretches where Chris Carson has been really good. So, I mean, maybe Russ he needs the play action and the interference and the bootlegs, the kind of static in the offense to make it look good. Maybe he's not apparently built to succeed just dropping back and throwing footballs. And you don't have an excuse a lot of quarterbacks have because DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are both pretty good. So you've got good wide receivers. They just as a team, they look like they're at the end of something. I don't know if Russ is ever going to go cook somewhere else. Like I don't know what team watches this year's game film and says this is the guy that we need to overpay.
Everybody says New York.
I guess I could see it. Like he's certainly an upgrade to every quarterback in New York on both teams. So I'll go there.
I don't, when I talk about, or when I ask that question about Russell Wilson, it's more, is he still an elite quarterback? Not is he an above average quarterback? Because he's definitely still an above average quarterback when healthy. And
he is not
significantly better than Daniel Jones.
He is not playing elite anymore. But if Saquon got healthy with those wide receivers and you put him in the Giants uniform, the Giants could be really good.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think Russ getting that Super Bowl really helps craft how we look at him.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, but I am taking Washington here. I actually really love the under. I don't think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I got it at 46.5. So I'm taking
the under there too.
Yeah, I'm taking Washington in the under. The Armada's playing strong. We'll see what they look like without Chase Young out of season-ending injury, unfortunately, because he was starting to play pretty well. But I'll take Washington here. I think Seattle's cooked. This is probably the end of the Pete Carroll era. And I guess if you're going to get rid of Carroll, you might as well try to move Russ if you can, right? Bring in somebody new to start it off. I don't know.
I don't think you should just get rid of quarterbacks like Russell Wilson.
I agree.
I mean, I know might be contradicting myself here saying he's not still elite, but Who are you going to find?
Exactly.
It's the same thing with Baker Mayfield.
Yeah,
who are you finding that's
exactly.
better? And don't tell me you can just go get somebody because the
That's not
Cleveland
how it
Browns
works.
spent 20 years trying to do that, and Baker Mayfield's the best they've come up with.
Yeah,
So
there's nobody you're gonna go get. But it wouldn't surprise me if they went to the draft and tried to rebuild the whole organization. That wouldn't
makes
surprise
sense.
me.
Our next game is the Carolina Panthers are traveling south to take on the Miami Dolphins. Miami is led by Tua Tagovailoa, who is another quarterback who should be thankful Baker Mayfield gets a lot of attention because he's been mostly pretty bad.
Yep.
This line was 1.5 for the Panthers on Wednesday. It is now up to 2, and 80% of the money line action is on Carolina. Who am I to argue with such things?
Yeah.
The over-under is 42. That Panthers defense just has to be able to keep Miami in check, right?
Yeah, Carolina's defense will be okay. I have no idea what Carolina's offense is going to look like, but it'll look like enough to beat the Dolphins. So I think Carolina gets back to 500 at 6-6.
Yeah, and Miami's surprisingly won 3 games in a row. So, the way this season's gone, that means they absolutely have to lose now.
Yeah.
No,
I don't want to. I don't want to.
The Atlanta Falcons are traveling to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. The still alive Atlanta Falcons. They were a 1-point favorites on Wednesday. That has now been bumped up to 2. The over-under sits at 46.5. Atlanta's hanging around 2. They're a bad football team, but Jacksonville's even worse. I'll take the Falcons.
Well, when we did our NFC South preview show, you couldn't bash a head coach hiring more than I bashed the Atlanta Falcons head coach hiring. I still think the Falcons are a bad team. I think they've lucked their way into some wins. I still think Jacksonville is more talented across the board than the Atlanta Falcons. So give me Jacksonville +2 and the money line because the Jaguars win this game outright.
The award for game nobody wants to watch this week
No.
is the Houston Texans hosting the New York Jets. Okay, maybe Houston Texan fans want to watch this game.
No, they don't.
They're-
They don't want to watch it either.
They're 2.5-point favorites. The over-under sits at 44.5. So somehow they think on a neutral field the Jets are half a point better, which blows my mind. But Zach Wilson's going to be starting for the Jets. He's apparently healthy again. I don't think it matters because I think he stinks, and I think the Jets stink, and I think Houston's actually playing okay. So I'll take the Texans.
Yeah, I'll also take the Texans. I do want to talk about something they've done on the defensive side of the ball that was really weird. So we had talked about, we had the Texans as a lock game 1 against Jacksonville because we said they got a lot of veterans who are going to come out and play really strong to start the season because they know the team's going to be bad, but if they play well individually, they can get moved to other teams. And it's actually exactly what Houston has done. They've gotten rid of almost all of their veteran defensive players. And now they've got all these young rookies and one-year guys in playing who are playing for a spot on a team in the NFL. And their defense is playing really hard. I don't think the Jets will be able to match their intensity. Weird to say Tyrod Taylor, the best quarterback in this game. So I think Tyrod Taylor and Brandon Cooks will have a good day. And I think the Texans win this one.
Yeah, and that has quite a few... in this game will probably play a big part in draft order. Yeah. The Jets, the Texans, and the Jaguars all have 2 wins. Obviously, Detroit winless is looking like they're going to have the number 1 pick locked up. But if Houston wins this game, it may not matter where they wind up in the draft because they may be getting a shitload of first-round draft picks for Deshaun Watson.
They might be getting a lot of first-round draft picks. So
it's just a lot of parity in the NFL this year. Although I still feel like in the NFC, there's a clear divide between the teams at the top. But to see so many of those teams in play for the 6th and 7th spots was really surprising as we were doing this. And there's still 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. There's still 10 teams that have a real shot at making the playoffs in the AFC.
Yeah, it's parity for parity's sake, and I love it. And then I think the thing that's happened this year that has messed with a lot of bettors, it's messed with us at times, and we've hit on it a little bit too. The thing that's weird is, good teams in the NFL beat bad teams in the NFL, but then good teams also beat good teams, and then people automatically think that good team that lost is a bad team, but no, they just weren't as good as the team that beat them. I think there are legitimately, I agree with you, there are legitimately 10 pretty good teams in the AFC. In the NFC, there's like this tier of like 4 or 5 teams, and then a whole bunch of people trying to cannibalize each other to get killed in the playoffs, which is fine because it's good to go to the playoffs. But I just think like these last few weeks in this season, it's going to be wild. Like, there's going to be some crazy stuff happening. I truthfully, like, I don't know, because, like, there was a lot of talk after his game last week, as good as it was. There was a lot of talk of Jonathan Taylor jumping into the MVP spot. No, don't make that bet. I don't care what odds you get. Jonathan Taylor is not winning the MVP, mostly because the Indianapolis Colts aren't going to the playoffs. So he will not be getting the MVP. The MVP is going to go to the quarterback of whichever NFC team gets the 1 seed. That's what I believe, be it Stafford, Brady, Murray. That's where I think the
Josh
Josh
Allen's stubbornness with his odds to come down is just mystifying.
I don't understand, because I just don't understand how the voters could look at what's gone on in this stretch of the season and say Josh Allen's the best player in the league. Like, I don't get that. It's weird to me. I do think it is time for the NFL to kind of adopt baseball's practice. There should probably be a Cy Young and then an MVP. So the quarterback gets their award. And then you have
that makes a lot of
the
sense.
most valuable player is a non-quarterback, something like that. But there's going to be just a lot of great games.
That was what the offensive and defensive players of the year were supposed to be, and now they're using offensive player of the year a lot of times winds up being the quarterback that was in the discussion for MVP but didn't win it.
Yep. So they're not using it quite right. But there's just going to be a lot of great football, man. Like, if you like football like we like football, dude, down the stretch, it's going to be great. And I think what you're going to see now the rest of the way is kind of like what we have this week, because we joked about how we had a stretch of games like for like 3 or 4 weeks where it was college football lines. You're not going to get that now. I don't think you're going to see a lot of 14-point spreads, 17-point spreads now. It's all going to be within a field goal and a touchdown. So you're really going to have to bet. Don't make bets you're not sure about. If you're trying to still make money on the season, look at the games where you're sure, like you are sure the underdog can get the victory. Bet that over, bet that money line, bet the spread, and hit on all 3, and keep your legs safe.
I think that's a great place to wrap up. Thank you for making the trip up here today, Jimmy.
No place I'd rather be, brother.
And we would like to thank you for listening. For Jimmy Champ, I'm Evan Belfiore, and we are No Broken Legs.
Every action has a repercussion. Lyrical bullets don't make me get the bussin'. Representing